Welcome, Tony.
Oh,
Please take a seat, and good to see you. Good to see our other guests.
morning, councillors.
Good morning, Lee.
I'd like to introduce Bill Goodall. Morning.
So we've been running slightly ahead of schedule, so it's good. So we've got. Please take it that we've read your written submission. We've had some comments from our team, but feel free to speak to your submission. You've got 10 minutes, which will include time for, we might have some questions of you. And it's just a reminder that it's our opportunity to listen to you, ask questions of you. We won't get into a debate at this stage. We'll be deliberating in December, and then we'll come back to you after that with the process from there. And it is dependent to some extent, and the time frame is dependent on whether council decides to go out to consultation on the annual plan or not. So, but anyway, we'll keep you posted after our December meeting as to what happens next. So we're all ears.
Okay, thank you. Right, we were just right on there. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Okay. First of all, the membership of the New Zealand Motor Caravan Association has grown to over 111,000 members, which is about 60,000 households. And it's still growing at a significant pace. Over 62% of the members travel in their motor caravan over 5 times a year, and 29% travel more than 10 times a year. 76% are aged over 60 years. Demand for new motorhomes and caravans soared during COVID lockdown, with current stocks at an all-time low. MBIE estimated that prior to COVID, there were more than 70,000 certified self-contained recreational vehicles in New Zealand, with an estimated similar number of other recreational camping vehicles. Combined estimate of 150,000 would not be unrealistic. They estimate that current numbers would be even higher. According to MBIE, in 2017, 100,000 international visitors participated in some freedom camping during their stay in New Zealand. While during the COVID restrictions, visitor numbers plummeted, it would not be unrealistic to expect these numbers to be exceeded in coming years. Cedar research has shown that 9% of visitors to Manawatu are free independent travellers, with domestic visitors coming to Manawatu from Wellington, 26%, Manawatu Wanganui, 21%, Auckland, 12%. The completion of Transmission Gully and other State Highway 1 improvements has made travelling to the Manawatu much easier and more accessible. The proposal that we put forward is based on the Rangiwahia shower block. And the usage of their shower block in the last 18 months was something like 733 people, which generated an income of $1,267, with expenses of $230 to fill up the bottles, gas bottles twice. So it's a reasonably good income for, in our case, would be for our community committee as well as the football club. And that's without income generated from the power points, which caravanners can plug into. Kimbolton is the gateway to the Ruahine walking tracks, with access to the tracks from both Apathy and Rangiwahia. It's So it's ideally situated for an overnight stop. Bartlett's and London's Ford picnic areas are used throughout the year, with numbers peaking during Christmas and New Year holidays. We expect that some people would use the showers facilities while down there as well. The Cambolton Sculpture Festival and Crosshills Gardens Country Fair attracts an increasing number of overnight campers, motorhomes and caravans each year. The Manawatu Caravan Club holds weekend events annually at the domain, attracting significant numbers. And the number of motorhomes using the domain to park up overnight or a couple of days throughout the year has steadily grown over the last few years. Anecdotally, the vast majority of New Zealand travelling campers, both domestic and international, bypass the Manawatu, with stops being National Park, Wellington and Picton. With industry moves to direct travelling campers off the beaten track to rural New Zealand, the opening of the new Taurua, Manawatu Highway and the multiple pathways through the Manawatu district, improving facilities at the Cambolton domain and supporting this target market is a win-win situation. We should be encouraging such travellers to visit, stay and spend in our region. Providing these facilities will attract more motorhome travellers to use the country road scenic route, encouraging them to stay longer and spend more dollars in the region. One of the significant issues with New Zealand's growing domestic and international recreational vehicle industry is the disposal of waste, both rubbish and human waste. Most camping vehicles carry sufficient waste capacity for 3 days, and disposing of this can become an issue with a shortage of suitably accessible dump stations. So the installation of a RV effluent dump station would be a considerable benefit to meet this increasing demand. Just to finish, we've got some pictures here of what the one at Rangiwahi looks like. First of all, the picture on the left is the location of the Cambolton domain. So it's up against the Rugby club rooms. Or the effluent or the dump station right there, going into the septic tank, which is about, I don't know, 5 metres away. The septic tank overflow runs into the Cambolton sewage system. So the other 3 pictures are hand basin, coin receptor, and the shower facility in the Rangiwahi facility. Any questions?
Councillor McFadden.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just have a question really around electric vehicles, e-vehicles. Because there's no charging stations in Cambolton, but
Not yet.
no, but I understand, or what I saw at the Caravan Expo was there wasn't many camper vans around it at this time, so it wouldn't be a showstopper to not have that. That's my question. To not have charging, in other words, they would they? My question is, there's not a lot of vehicles appear to have motorhomes, etc., to be e-vehicles, electric vehicles. So therefore, charging stations is not a barrier because they're not powered by that. Is my assumption correct?
That's right, yes. Yeah. The charging station or the power points that we're talking about in the submission were for people to plug their caravan in instead of using their batteries.
Yes, correct. Understood that.
Thank you. Couple of questions. You've referred to Rangiwahi. Do you think that you'd be in competition with Rangiwahi and maybe basically just divide the number of people between the two sites?
I can't really answer the question there. I don't know, to be honest. It might do. How does Councillor Belsky feel about it?
I don't.
Well, he's not allowed to.
Oh, you're not allowed.
He can ask questions. Okay. And the other one was, how confident are you about the price? It seems low.
Okay, so the quote we got from Alistair Smith was current prices. Now, he did say that he would have to re-quote if it was 12 months' time. It was started, yeah. So it's probably an indication rather than a concrete quote.
Thank you. Councillor Underwood.
Your comment about the septic tank, so you're saying it wouldn't require any extra emptying with the extra use, it would run off into the sewage system?
Correct.
And one other question, do you have any restrictions at the domain? Do you accept dogs, and do you have a restriction on the number of nights that people can stay?
We wouldn't be, I can't envisage we'd put a restriction on number of nights, but that would be dependent on experience. I mean, if it was people turn up there and were long-term stayers, then I don't know, we'd probably have to put a restriction on, but we don't envision that there would be a restriction. In terms of the dogs, well, it's a Manawatu District Council owned domain. It's your rules.
Thank you. Councillor Short.
Thank you very much, Tony, for your presentation, and you've done some extensive homework, which we appreciate. I've certainly seen at the Sculpture Festival and the Cross Hills Fair how many people come in camper vans and where they find themselves. Are there any? There's no other powered sites in Kimbolton itself, is there, for caravans? Or what is what's the pub got?
The hotel provides powered sites, I think. Would that be right?
Not powered sites, just power. They run cords basically.
Oh, okay.
No powered sites there.
So run calls from the house,
Yeah.
or from the
From the
hotel.
hotel.
Although I can't say I've seen lots of caravans or camper vans there, even though I know it's available to people.
Yeah, there's one or two during the year.
Yep.
Not big numbers.
Yeah.
I think there's probably as many, if not more, go to the domain just to park up overnight at the moment. Would that be right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's for those new councillors that perhaps aren't familiar with Kimbolton domain, the area you're talking about is well back off the road and nice and peaceful, isn't it? It's sort of.
Yeah. There is a security camera at the club rooms, which focuses on that area where we're putting down, proposing to put it.
Thank you.
Councillor Blakemore.
Thank you. Just checking, this current proposal does not include the waste dump station. Is that correct? Would that be a follow-up?
I think that is correct, yes.
Okay. And a second question, please. Do you have any, so is this based on anticipated demand, or do you have a sense of kind of what's happening now in Kimbolton and those travellers?
We haven't put, we don't record how many camper vans or motorhomes stay. So this in anticipation, yes.
Last question, Councillor Belsky.
The building, it's obviously the rugby club owns, do they?
Yes,
And the council owns the grounds,
correct.
right? So the power charge, power unit, who's going to pay what? Have you talked to them about the pay of the power?
Well, we have spoken to the rugby club, and they're very happy with our proposal. They would be paying for the power because it wouldn't be a separate meter.
A separate meter?
No, it wouldn't be a separate
Oh,
meter.
wouldn't it?
No.
Okay.
At this stage, anyway.
Are
But they'll be getting half the income.
Oh, okay.
So we're sharing the income between them and us.
Are they quite happy?
Yes, they are. I think I included the letter.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
Yep.
From them, yeah.
Yeah, I saw there was that in here, but I was just checking about the power and there's no, it'd been all planned. But the other question was, has Alice?
No, that was the last one. Real quick.
I just wanted to, I didn't know Alistair Smith had a building contract.
Yes.
He has.
He's a shed builder. He's a shed builder.
Thanks. Sorry,
It's all right, just watching the clock. So thank you both very much. Thank you for your submission. And as I said, we'll come back to you in due course. We'll give you an update in December.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you both very much. Right, we welcome Nigel Baker and Himatangi Community Committee. Welcome to the table.
Morning.
Morning.
And I think you heard me introduce the Bolton team, so I won't repeat myself. So over to you. We've read your submission, but please feel free to speak to it and update us.
Yeah, tēnā koutou katoa, Nigel Barker.
Barker, I beg your pardon.
Tōku ingoa. Yes, representing the Himatangi Beach community. I'm on the Himatangi Beach Community Committee and the Community Trust. And Renee here is representing the Himatangi Beach Community Patrol.
Yeah.
So Renee's attended a couple of these meetings previously. Why are we here? We've applied for $10,000 or up to $10,000. I throw the up to support our security camera. The purchase and installation of a security cameras to protect the jewel of the Manawatu, which is Himatangi Beach. If I take it back in history a bit, 2016, I think we established this project started, and the committee at the time came to the council here for funding and got that turned down
2019.
in 2019, and then to go back and look at grants, etc. Of course, with COVID and with some an unfortunate death in the committee, that project stalled. I joined the Himatangi community 2 years ago, and then joined the committee in September last year. Through that time, in the first early months of that committee, I realised the biggest issue in the community was security and safety. I come from a emergency management background, and so safety was a concern there, and looked at it from that perspective. What was the issue? A lot of burglaries, a lot of crime, a lot of vehicles being stolen and in and out of the community. So the security cameras made sense to me. So I did a bit of background and talked to Renee here, and that project had stalled. So I agreed to then join the trust so that we could make some grant applications. So I joined the trust in February this year, and since then we've made some grant applications, and we've raised $30,000 through those grant applications, or $25,000, sorry, through the grant applications, and $5,000 in fundraising, community fundraising. So we're $10,000 short at this stage, and we do have a further grant application with another provider, which is due to know that by the end of this month. While they have said that we do qualify for the funding, they cannot tell me how much we qualify, of course, until I've met, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm asking of this council is that you underwrite any shortfall we might have up to $10,000. Well, I'm confident we will get some funding from that provider. How much is the question? The reason being our quote will be guaranteed that the quote will be alive till the end of the year, and then there could potentially be price increases. So if we know where we're at by the end of the year, then we'll know what we can do. And we want to sort of order product and start the process going. Why don't we fundraise the balance would be a good question. Thanks for asking that question. The fundraising we've started already is taking other fundraising away from the community. We've had to do some additional fundraising to raise money for our community hall, which we didn't expect, but because of the use over the last 2 years, we've had to do that to raise the balances. We've had to do some additional fundraising, which we're going to have to do for our community patrol. The price of petrol has gone through the roof, as we all know. And so we can't actually afford to operate as we normally do from the patrol. Our fundraising efforts for our surf patrol also needs to be expanded more than what is budgeted for because of additional costs. So for fundraising for this project, we'll take away that funding that we won't be able to secure for the other things. So our preference is to keep our operational and our capital separate. Hence why I've come to this committee today to ask for that. Just want to ask Renee to talk a little bit about the increase in crime over the last, particularly in the last few months.
Yeah, I've made some bullet points here. Vandalism is quite big, and as you've probably seen in the media, only this week, all the council have been working on the new skate park, and the people have come in and thrown all the RTDs and bottles all over the place and smashed it everywhere, so the kids can't use it at all. It's being picked up by the media as well, and so it's not a good look for us. That only happened on Monday night, just a few nights ago. Stolen cars being dumped at the beach and burned, If only we had the cameras, we could see the people driving out again and who dropped them in there because they come in pairs or three sometimes. We've had 2 boats stolen in the last 2 months, 1 caravan, 4 cars, and that's happened between August and now. And 2 cars have been found by the police. I work quite closely with Sergeant Piney from the Foxton Police, and we found 2 cars, or police found 2 cars, but all the rest is still missing. There's 3 more caravans still missing, and God knows what's happened to them. But if we had the cameras, we could see them driving out at God knows what time in the morning. So vandalism to the toilets, the council buildings, that's all still happening, and we've cleaned a lot of it up ourselves. Mainly glass and just general dirt inside the cubicles. And so it goes on. I can keep going on for a long time, but it's on the increase, unfortunately, and we can only do so much.
Thank you,
So
Nigel.
while
and
these
Renee.
cameras won't prevent crime and they won't prevent these things from happening, they're a deterrent.
Yep.
They're going to allow us to work with the police to see vehicles coming in and out of the village. The cameras have number plate recognition as well as face recognition, and they'll cover both entrances and exits from the beach, as well as the skate park, the recycling centre, and our community centre. So where they're strategically located, we'll cover all those and monitored 24/7 in the Levin police station. So lots of pluses. So we see this as a no-brainer. It may cost you nothing. Ideally, that's the case, but we just need some assurance that we've got the money to back up so we can start ordering product. Thank you for your time. Open to any questions.
Thank you. We've got a couple of minutes for questions. Councillor Short.
Thank you for your presentation, and I have heard in the past about the issues down there, especially through the community patrol. And for those who didn't pick up, Hamatangi comes under the Horowhenua Police District, so there's quite a network of cameras in some of the other coastal villages along there, isn't there? And Hamatangi is about the only one that doesn't have one now.
That's right.
What would you say police resources are like at the moment when you do have issues? I know they make a good effort in the summer, but you know, when you spot the things happening around the village, would you say you get a strong response or not?
I'm getting a medium response from the police. During the year, it increases in the summer. They're going to put 2 new patrols on in the summer, starting just before Christmas until the holiday season is finished. They'll have beach patrols, police and patrol will be working together on the beach for about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And but during the winter, the police is less inclined to do patrols around the Hamatangi area, but we pick up the slack. But unfortunately, for the last 6 or 8 months, we haven't been able to do the 7-day thing that we normally do because we can't afford petrol costs. Our petrol costs are shot through the roof because of petrol prices, and we can't afford it. And the council very kindly gives us about $3,500 a year, but the petrol cost is nearly $4,700.
Oh.
And on top of that, we get the maintenance cost, of course, and all our uniforms and all the paraphernalia. But overall, it's you know, we're still very positive.
And if I can just add to that question, we actually had a community meeting last week in preparation for summer, which Renee attended that, and with the police and with other services to make sure we're prepared for what's
The
going on.
council's there. Yeah.
Yes, I don't know whether, just as an aside, whether you're aware, we actually stayed down at the motor camp.
We did.
Council.
We met
Yes, so
during
we
the-
had a good
yes.
wander around. I'm very disappointed to hear that about the smashed glass at the skate park.
Yes,
So,
unfortunately, we still don't know who did it, but we're working on it.
Councillor McFadden.
Thank you. Just a question around you said you've got facial recognition on the cameras. Does that package also include linking into a national database where you actually feed that data in, or?
That's not actually our business, to be honest.
No,
That's the police.
Yeah.
So the cameras feed into the Levin police station, and what they do with that information is up to them. So they just alert us through the community.
Cameras on a
control.
60-day loop, and they film it on with a 60-day loop, so the information stays there for 60 days, then it gets wiped. So any crime that happens within the 60-day period can be beamed back to us. We'll have a camera set up in our community patrol garage as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Belsky.
Yeah, I noticed only one quote. Is that right? Only one quote?
Yes.
There's not many Yeah, usually people get two, or at least two, so.
Absolutely.
And we got two for our Rangiwahi Hall and Kinetic here, and Fielding were way cheaper than anybody else, so I don't know whether or not you have got other quotes or talked.
No, we haven't. No, it's a good question. There's only one quote because that's the provider for the Levin Policing District. And so they have to meet the requirements of the police to fit into that system. Because we'll be linking up to the other
We'll be
systems.
linking in with Foxton, and Foxton's got 15 cameras, and they're all HIC cameras, top-notch cameras, and they all link into Turk's Tower, which beams it into the Levin Police Station.
And B&M did them.
Yep.
Yes.
And they are on a contract. Yeah, all be monitored by the Crime Prevention Trust.
I'm just text my wife because I wasn't sure what Southern Central or someone gave us all the money, $10,000, I think, for the Rangi Hall. I just wondering if you tried those.
Eastern Central gave us $10,000.
Oh, okay.
Eastern Central Community Trust. We also had $15,000 from lotteries.
You've done very well to get the money
Very
we've got so far.
Well, thank you very much, Nigel and Renee. Great submission. The only comment I will just reiterate is that we'll be deliberating in December. We'll update you on the process from there, but it will depend on whether council decides to go out to consultation for its annual plan. If so, that'll roll us into next year. If we don't, of course, we'll be able to make decisions probably in December. So we may not be able to give you a yes or no this year, which I know you're wanting, but
that's timing, I guess, and to do with the quote, they've already rolled it from September to December, and have guaranteed us to December. I think you'll see on the quote you got, it was the end of September when it expired, but they've allowed us to go to them because they've got product in the country at the moment and don't have to go out of country to get that. So
we'll certainly update you in December so that to tell you where we're at.
well, I'm hoping to update you at the end of November to say thank you, but
Thanks, we don't need your money. Yeah, we're hoping that too, actually. But
thank you for your time.
thank you, and you're doing a wonderful job. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, moving to Halcombe Community Trust, we have Kirsty Staples and Lucinda Dudunsky. Welcome. Please come and join us at the table. And so please take it that we've read your submission, but you're very welcome to speak to it, and you might want to highlight particular points or add to it. You have 10 minutes, and that includes time for questions. And just a reminder to us that we're here to listen and to ask questions. We're not here to debate or anything. We will be deliberating in December, and we will update you after that as to where we're at in the process. You probably just heard me say it will depend on whether we go up to public consultation or not with our annual plan, as to whether we can give you an answer in December or whether that will roll into next year. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. So click like this to move it on. How do I click it to move it? Yeah. Oh, I don't think, sorry. Right. Thank you for having us today. Yep, we're here to talk about two projects that the Halcombe Community Trust are putting forward: the upgrade of the Halcombe tennis courts and also the establishment of our walkway. So as you can see here in the pictures, our current tennis courts is a little run down. Our netting is needing replacement. The courts themselves are very bedraggled, lighting very ancient, and the buildings run down. As we were actually discussing just out in the foyer there, that Christy doesn't remember it being upgraded since she was 5, and her grandparents don't remember it being upgraded since they were on it. So it's been a while since it's had any sort of love, let's say. Okay, so this is nothing, shouldn't be anything new. We have had this submission identified and planned for in the 2002-2003 budget, and now we're just saying, hey, we'd really appreciate the money for it to move forward. So we're looking at resurfacing both of the courts into a multi-court facility. We obviously need to, we've got 2 quotes for, and we're looking at approximately 90K for that. Fixing up the nets, which is another 45K. Improving the drainage, 20K, and new lights, approximately 20K as well. So we've been working on this for a considerable amount of time and have multiple quotes. So basically the whole project we're thinking of is approximately now going to be 175K, And we're asking council for less than a third of that, which is the 55k, which is just going to be going towards the actual courts themselves. So we consider this a whole community project. We've been working with council, we've been working with Sports Manawatu, we've been consulting the community and all sorts of different people, and have approximately 6 or 7 letters of support from different people using the courts. We have done fundraising ourselves. We have got an application currently in with Central Energy Trust, and we're getting our Eastern Central Community Trust one, Central Community Trust one in by the end of this month. So it's a community growing. Halcombe is a community in our area that is growing rapidly. We have lots of subdivisions underway. So we'd love this area to be our recreation area, to be our community hub. So it's a place where people gather together, encourage physical fitness and well-being. So as you can see, we do currently still use it for tennis and basketball and boot camp, but through consultations, we reckon by making it that multi-courts, we will almost increase the usage of it by double. So getting to the crux of it, it's just the 3 things that we're asking from council is that seed funding, that 55k. Out of the whole 175, we'll find the extra 120. Once it's installed, that you continue to maintain the area and maintain the court itself. And finally, that it get vested with council and therefore becomes a council renewal for funding for the future. Okay, Christy, over to you.
Thank you. Our second project is establishing a community walkway. This is to allow our community, including our children, to walk and bike safely. Not sure if you've been around Halcombe, but it's an extremely busy road that runs straight through the middle of Halcombe, and a lot of the auxiliary roads into it. There's a lot of corners, they're narrow, not much curves, lots of dips, really unsafe for walkers and bikers. We've got a small clip that we thought would illustrate that.
Do we have the volume with it? Anybody?
Children of Halcombe would desperately love to be able to bike to each other's houses, down to the domain and to school. As you can see, there isn't a walkway for Halcombe School students and Fielding High School students to walk on to get to Halcombe School and the bus stop safely. If the families in Halcombe want to go for a bike ride, go for a walk or a run, there is no option for them to travel safely around Halcombe, as there is not a designated walkway for them to travel safely on. As you can see from the limited space on the side of the road, it is unsafe. Often cars travel in excess of the speed limits, which are 50, 70 and sometimes 100 kilometres an hour.
We really wish we could ride our bikes in the weekend with our families on the road, but it's just not safe. We really want to walk or ride our bikes to school, but it's a bit unsafe. So we were thinking that you and the council would make a path so that we could ride our bikes to school safely.
The children of Halcombe would desperately...
We'd like to thank the council for having already approved funding under the walking and cycling strategy for this community walkway. However, we're requesting the following. If you see on the map, there's a small section up from Monty Street up to the school, that from the existing walkway. So yeah, thanks, Lucinda. So that small section there, that's already been approved for the 2023-2024 budget. So we just would love that to be confirmed. And that will mean that that will link through to the school. We'd also love for that area in the red. So that's across that main road. And that has already been approved in the Safer Journeys to School in 2020. So, and it was agreed that it would be done then. So we would request that that's actually completed. And then bringing forward the View Road. So there's a 13K loop that we can, if we get a 5.3K section, which Lucinda will point out up there, if we can get that 5.3Ks, we get a 13K loop that everyone can travel safely around the community and Halcombe School. And that's already been approved for the 2027-2028 budget. We would just love for it to be brought forward so the community can benefit from that project earlier. And finally, we guess we're saying if there was a change in the council's priority and this was not going to meet, you know, what you are looking for, that we would ask if you could agree that the community is able to develop the walkway and that you would maintain the walkway going forward. We thank you for your time and welcome questions.
Thank you both very much for your submission. We are out of time, but I will allow a couple of questions if we have some. Councillor Shaw.
What's the current role of Halcombe School?
200.
That's quite substantial.
Yeah.
And just in regards to the tennis courts, the school doesn't really have suitable tennis courts, do they? They have some concrete areas, but they're not.
No, and they don't have hockey turfs, and so the kids at the moment are going down to those tennis courts for tennis lessons because there's not tennis courts in the school.
And they're also using that for hockey training because there's not enough group for the netball and the hockey. So the hockey now goes down to the Halcombe community for hockey practice.
And then just one other one quickly with the walkway. So the little crossing that they're talking about, the Safer Journeys for Schools crossing, which I'm not sure that there was a reason why that hasn't happened. I can't think.
There was confusion, if I can say. So they
it's by the Rusty Radiator intersection.
It's by the Rusty Radiator intersection. They went to Sue Simpson and Sue thought that they were talking, and there was some confusion where they thought that she thought they were talking about a crossing right up at the school area, but we're looking at crossing across the Rusty Radiator because you cannot get across that road.
Do you know what the traffic count is? I know some years ago when I was on the Halcombe Community Committee, when I was the liaison councillor, it was 1 million vehicles a year through there 10 years ago.
Yeah,
so it would be more than that now.
Yeah. And a lot of kids are crossing the roads and doing it themselves, and it is worrying.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
And really appreciate your submission and for coming in to speaking to us. Thank you. Welcome to Helen King from the Environment Network Manawatu and others. Come and join us at the table. Welcome. Please take it that we've read your submission and you're welcome to speak to it. 10 minutes, which includes questions, and we're here to listen to you, to ask questions. We're not here to debate with you. And we'll be deliberating in December. And after that, we'll come back to you with where to from here. G'day, good to see you, Rebecca.
Kia ora. Good morning, everybody. I believe when you're invited somewhere, it's always nice to start with a gift of some kind. So our gift to you today is a copy of our amazing annual report, which we're really, really, really proud of. It celebrates incredible environmental mahi that's going on in the Manawatu River catchment, and I'm sure it'll make beautiful bedtime reading for you all as well. Thank you very much for having us here today. I'm excited to not be delivering questions today and to be on the other side of them from the last time when I saw you, and to just start by introducing Environment Network Manawatu a little bit and move into talking about our application for funding from the annual plan. Just to introduce my colleagues, I have here Mads Batachel, who is the ENM coordinator, and Rebecca in a different role from when you've seen her before. Rebecca is the new co-chair of the ENM board. So Environment Network Manawatu, let's see if I can work the technology. Excellent. We are the environmental hub for the Manawatu catchment. We support and celebrate the work of currently 65 member groups. 35 plus of these identify their mahi as being linked to the Manawatu district. So that's a huge amount of work that's going on in this area to celebrate. Environment Network Manawatu oversees two collectives. We have the Manawatu Food Action Network, which is about 25 groups who work in the food resilience area. And this is growing, and this represents groups that are in fielding as well. As part of this collective, it also oversees the Kai Resilience Strategy, which is linked to the 4412 area of Palmerston North, and again is working on food resilience and sovereignty. We also have our Manawatu River Source to Sea collective, which has been going now, I think, for 6 or 7 years, Mads, is that correct? And this is a group of about 20 organisations who meet regularly and focus on the health of our hour. This oversees 2 key projects: the Plastic Pollution Challenge, which has had a presence in fielding and looks at river health and reducing and educating about the amount of plastics that's going into our river. And also the Ruahine Kiwi project, which is very proudly situated in the Manawatu district. This is a project as from 2021, which is focused on bringing kiwi back into the Ruahine ranges by 2026, which is a fantastic bit of mahi. Underpinning all of these, and at the bottom, and what we're here to talk about today, is the Environmental Initiatives Fund, which is money that is currently given to us by PNCC, which we redistribute to projects within the environmental community. And Mads will talk more about the fund itself and where we'd like to go with it with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Helen. We'll just try and figure this out now. So the Environment Initiatives Fund started a couple of years ago. We've had 2 rounds of the fund in Palmerston North, and we've given out, I think, 100, oh gosh, I should have known the number, at least $60,000 in the first year and about the same in the second year. And 2 small environmental projects. So we have a large fund of up to $12,000 and a small fund of up to $1,000 for really small or slightly less small initiatives that help to enable on the ground work for groups that may not be able to get other funds from all sorts of other different places that large organisations can get. It's had really good uptake. You'll see on page 12 of that document that I've just handed out, our little report on the Environmental Initiatives Fund for the last financial year. Some nice stories there. So one of the projects that we funded was the Square Edge Arts Centre courtyard regeneration, so in Palmerston North. So unfortunately, this all focuses on Palmerston North because Palmerston North is the only funder for this at the moment. What we're asking for from the council, from this council, is that we'd really like to be able to offer our Manawatu district members and individuals and small groups the opportunity to also engage in our fund by receiving a little bit of support from Manawatu District Council so that we can expand our horizons for who can get this fund. So the Square Edge Arts Centre wanted to put in a nice garden area and some gazebos and some picnic tables and make it a nice place to be and to have like an edible garden on the edge there for people to engage with. They had quite a lot of funding from other places and we topped that up to help to finish that project off. I think we funded this about $10,000 or $12,000. Supergrands Manawatu run preserving workshops in Palmerston North and in Fielding, I believe, preserving and sewing and gardening and a whole lot of skill building workshops, and we were able to help fund them to increase their capacity to do that. They so they got some extra wages funding for that, and then a really small group called Upcycle Club 1 runs small workshops at Te Manawa Museum. And just on, so you can see all those plastic lids, none of those are recyclable, as you'll probably know. They fall through people's machinery when they're at the recycling plant and go out to landfill. So they collect all of these and create great little games and engage children in how they might create cool crafts with rubbish, essentially. So those are just 3 really small examples of what we funded. We actually funded 12 grants in 2021-22. $62,000 was awarded to 9 large projects, plus the other 3 were smaller projects. the quote here, your funding has boosted our morale. The volunteers have more active involvement in our activities. For example, not just turning up for the day to help me, they take more initiatives and responsibilities to develop new activities and give me more time for preparations and planning. Overall, I feel that our workshops have been improved and are more popular due to our funding for that. This picture up here in the top right-hand corner of this presentation is the Kairanga School. They've received 3 small grants. So they received a grant and implemented their project around planting. So they're creating a little biodiversity area, a natives area from scratch at their school, and they've got really great engagement from the school kids. They implemented that, then they applied for a bit more, then they applied for a bit more. So and they're just rolling on with this. But Kairanga School is in the Palmerston North City boundaries. Newbury School is in the Manawatu district boundaries, and they also emailed us and said, can we apply for your grant? And we said no. So and there's many more schools. Benarawa School is relating to us through the Plastics Pollution Challenge project and doing a whole lot of waste audits and things like that. I'm sure that they would love to have a little bit of environmental focused funding that they could put towards a project as well if that was available to them. And I just wanted to note that so within our submission, we did discuss and kind of point out that this fits within your council strategies under the environment to be proud of, a future planned together, and a place to belong and grow. So, yes.
Thank you, Mads. Thank you, Helen and Rebecca. Quick questions. Once again, we haven't got much time, but so I apologise for that. Councillor Hadfield.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks, Helen, for that. I just note the point you made around volunteer hours. Just picking up on this one, provided us with the 21 report. The 6,000 volunteer hours down to 2,912 is quite significant. Well, I understand why. Are you confident that you'll build that volunteer network back up to pre-existing levels?
Yes.
We all know how.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are quite. We were running really strongly led ministry for the environment funded plastic pollution challenge programs in the year prior. And so there was a lot of volunteer action around the rivers and streams and picking up rubbish. We continued with that work, but with less funding in the last financial year. And so we didn't have as many events. So there's a really specific event based, and obviously there was COVID and other issues in that. So in terms of engagement in environmental activities and volunteer interest, that's still really strong.
Any other questions, councillors? Well, look, thank you very much for your presentation, for your gifts. That's basically sorted Christmas, so that's good. And so we'll be deliberating in December. We'll give you an update after that, before Christmas, on process from here. Rebecca knows a bit about process, and it will, as I said, it will depend on whether council decides to go to public consultation for its annual plan or not. If we do, that will mean the process will take a bit longer into next year. If not, we can probably make a decision in December. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. And we have Ali on screen. Welcome, Ali, from Neighbourhood Support, Manawatu.
Hi, everyone. Oh, excuse me. First time I've used my voice this morning.
Ali, we have we've read your submission. It's your turn to speak to it. 10 minutes, including question time. And our job is to listen and ask you questions. We're not here to debate the merits, etc. And you might have just heard me say we'll be deliberating in December. We'll give you an update on where to from here in December. And that will depend on whether we go out to public consultation with our annual plan or not. As to the timing, if we don't, we'll be able to probably make a decision in December. But if we do, that will roll over into the new year. The floor is yours, Ali.
Cool, thank you. Can I share my screen? I've got a few presentation slides. Let me just make sure I have it ready to go. It's a bit of fun trying to work through Eddie's presentation and slideshow at the same time. Right, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Is it showing just the presentation view, or is it showing the whole damn thing down the side as well?
We can just see you up in the corner, but otherwise it's the full screen is the presentation.
Okay, excellent. All right, we're ready to go. So the Manawatu Rural Community Transport Project, we're planning for it to hit the road in July next year. So first and foremost, what are we talking about? This has been a community-led initiative to establish a service for rural Manawatu district residents, and it will operate as an on-demand service Monday to Friday. It will provide a door-to-door service from any address in the Manawatu district to any location in Fielding. We've got a pricing structure where up to 4 passengers can be picked up from the same address and pay one fare. And the vehicle itself will be a 12-seater van with a luggage trailer, so people can carry their groceries or other shopping, mobility devices, and those such things. Now, I'm aware we have got the full council here today, haven't we?
We're full council,
yes,
with two absent.
Right, so there's probably a few people, I know there's some new faces around the table who may not know much about this already at all, so I thought I'd give a little bit of the history and who's involved. So I'm Ellie Thompson, as you know. I'm the chairperson of Neighbourhood Support Manawatu, and you'll see there that I'm also a sucker for a project. So I got involved with this when I heard about it last year. Our steering committee is June Barrett, who was basically a founder of the initiative with Jane Rennick, and they did some of the early research. Alison Short, who you all know well, Avril Jeston from Manawatu Rural Support Service, Angela Baker, who's a resident in Cheltenham and a very active person around the town. She's a psychologist, counsellor and educator. Lorraine Thompson, who is the current General Manager of Neighbourhood Support Manawatu, and Pauline Cooper and Rex Wheeler, who are both part of St John Fielding. Pauline is their Community Engagement Coordinator, and Rex is the Chairperson of the Fielding Area Committee. So we're a fairly motley crew, but we've all been putting our heads together about this for quite some time now, and we're at the point where we're ready to get something off the ground. So there's a timeline there. This started in 2019, as I mentioned, June, and Jane got to chatting over the fence one day and started talking about the need for a rural transport service, particularly for some of the elderly residents to access healthcare. They made a presentation to council of their findings in September 2020, and almost a year later we put the steering committee together. That was more or less when I heard about it, and I thought, well, we could pick this up and carry on that good work that they'd started. So in August and through to October last year, we did some market research in the form of a survey online, which we received 250 odd responses to. We analysed all of that data and put that together to a service proposal, which we published in April. This was the first version of the proposal of how the service would look. And with that, we made a recommendation to Horizons for their draft regional public transport plan, that they should give a higher priority to rural services for Manawatu and bring forward the date that they were planning on starting to initiate those services. And so they actually agreed to that. So we had a really, really good conversation with Horizons. They've been extremely supportive and in favour of this idea, and particularly that we've got it to the point of being ready to launch something which can potentially be used as a pilot for other districts in the region. So their regional public transport plan published in July indicated that services for Manawatu would be initiated in 2023 and given a high priority. So we've got them on board, which of course means that when the service is established, we'll also have funding from Waka Kotahi for that. So in August, we flexed our muscles and got to work again. And as you can see, we're planning on having it up and running by July next year. So why are we establishing this service? This is just a snippet of some of the key data from what we found out with our survey. So we've got more than 335 people. That's just from the survey results. We haven't extrapolated that number to represent the district, the whole district. That's purely the respondents to the survey who need rural transport, and they need it now. 68% of our survey respondents said they would use a rural community transport service, and 74% of our survey respondents support establishing a service. So even some of those people who responded to the survey and said, not for me, I don't need it, they still said, yes, I support this happening. People use it mostly for medical and health appointments, supermarket, groceries, getting to the pharmacy, doing other shopping, going to cafes and eateries, and some of the other things that people indicated were social things, accessing activities and all sorts of things. Who these people are, we grouped all of the respondents to the survey who would use this service into persona groups, basically. So those are able-bodied retirees, people with disabilities or other limitations, and individuals with dependents. And those are the three largest user groups, and the other three are youth and young adults, couples, and other able-bodied individuals. So a really broad cross-section of everybody living out in our rural communities. One of the biggest reasons for this need is actually also enabling our rural residents to remain rural. And this is where a lot of the conversations started, that people were saying that they had always, particularly our elderly, had always planned to move into Fielding when the time came, but with the way that the housing market has developed, they can no longer afford to buy something in an urban area based on what they've got to sell in rural, and this is a common problem. So 73% of our rural respondents stated that this service would help them stay living rurally for longer, which we consider to be a very, very positive outcome. And so the reasons for needing the service included increasing age, loss of driving ability, people being dependent on their spouses or the other household members for transport, children being isolated, and young people, so school holidays, teenagers out in the rural areas have got nothing to do, nowhere to go, unless they've of course been put to work on the family farm. Maintaining independence, increasing petrol costs are a big issue for a lot of people. So even those who have access to vehicles are finding it, really feeling the pinch of how much it costs to go and do that weekly shop in town. Or no vehicle access at all. And there's a handful of people also who are considering the environment, and which is encouraging, and who want to try and reduce their own carbon footprint. And as I mentioned, that high cost of housing in the town centres is preventing many of our rural elderly residents in particular from relocating. And then there's also people who simply state that they prefer to live rurally. So who are we to force them to move around just because they haven't got a car in an ideal world?
Ali, I'm the time Grinch.
Yes. Okay.
So
I'm rushing.
Time's up. However, because I'm so generous, we'll give you another few minutes.
Okay, thanks very much. We didn't start on time either, so we'll rush. But anywho, we really need some support at this point. We're requesting 22,000 from the Manawatu District Council. The total amount we're trying to raise for the establishment cost at this stage is around 160,000. That may decrease depending on the support we get from vehicle providers if we can get a discounted rate. I'll skip over the details of what that covers. One of the key questions I think is, why should ratepayers be contributing to this? So this service will be available to and used by only ratepayers in our district. So that's a really important thing to point out. Bringing residents into Fielding will support our local businesses and organisations. And once it's available, once it's established, the van could also be made available to community groups and organisations outside of its regular operating hours, which just has an amplifying effect. And it really future-proofs rural living for many of our residents. We do have some contingency planning in terms of what we're going to do if we don't reach the funding levels that we are aiming for, and particularly with the annual operating costs to keep the service sustainable. If we don't reach the funding marks that we need, we will be able to operate the service at a reduced capacity. There's a bit more detail there, but I can send these slides through if you want to read them since we've run out of time. Questions?
Thank you, Ali. That's a very good example of speed talking. Well done.
I usually talk fast anyway, so.
Questions from councillors? Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you. That was really interesting and very extensive presentation. My question is, which entity would be running this service?
So for the current situation, it will exist under Neighbourhood Support Manawatu because we're an existing entity and it fits within our, purposes. We have the structure and our board is in support. I'm the chairperson, but our board are also supportive. So we will establish it under Neighbourhood Support Manawatu. Concurrently, we're also looking at starting a new entity, and once the service is established and running and everything's fine, we would transfer the operation and the assets to that entity. That will not happen until maybe a year down the track. And that's purely so that the service is independent and doesn't compete for funding with other initiatives of neighbourhood support in the long term. And also so that in the future, if Horizons looks to expand to other districts within the region, that new organisation could potentially take those on as well.
Thank you. Councillor Underwood.
The 120,000 that you set aside for the vehicle, is that one vehicle?
Yes, and that's a very, very, very high number. So I took, when I prepared our budgets, I took the absolute highest cost that we could be looking at, and that also includes the purchase of the trailer as well.
And the diesel, is a diesel vehicle. Do you have a contingency for the increasing price of diesel or its unavailability?
No, but that sort of comes into the annual operating costs in the future. So any sort of things we have to face in terms of rising costs or whatever, then we can revise the operating model. So as I said, we can reduce the operating days. We can look to rent the vehicle out to bring additional revenue. And if worse came to worse, we could revise the pricing structure for the fares, but that would be the absolute last resort, I hope. Yeah.
Ali, thank you very, very much for your presentation and for your submission. And we'll report back in December with an update on where to from here. So thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time. Have a great rest of the day.
Right, we welcome the Cheltenham Community Committee, Tammy and Pauline, to the table. And I think you've heard my prelim, so I won't repeat myself.
Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Tammy. I'm the Cheltenham Community Secretary and Pauline's our Treasurer. We've not long lost our Mr. Keith, who was our amazing chairman. So it's just me and Pauline at the moment, steering the ship. As you know, we've got our playground out at Cheltenham, and that was from the school, which was community money brought that. And we pulled it apart when Cheltenham School closed, hid it in a shed for a couple of years and put it together when we finally got our little piece of land opposite the dairy. So that's been put up. We've ordered with Rec Services 3 things to go in there for the little kids because the playground's really for the bigger kids, and to make it more interesting for them, we've got that, and we thank NDC for their money that they've given us for that so far, and we've also had money from Eastern and Central to help with that. Our next our funding request for this time round is for our phase 3 for our playground. We're after a plastic curb slide to finish off our existing playground, and also a climb and spin, so that will be good for kids of all ages. And yeah, we're slowly making our playground a bit better for everyone, and it's just giving Cheltenham a bit more of excitement, really. You either got to go to the shop for an ice cream or call in the pub for a beer. But yes, it is getting a lot more appealable for children of all ages with our new updates coming in. We're still going to be adding some extras to our area. We want to put in some fruit trees and some paths and maybe some shade, because that's a major in the summer. So I hope that fills the gaps.
Brilliant. Right. Questions, councillors? Councillor Short.
Just well done. I was the Cheltenham Community Committee Liaison Council when this project first started, and they waited for a very long time to get a piece of land across the road, which worked out very well, which came from the Catholic diocesan, which has now become community land. So it was great foresight that when the school closed, that you did keep the playground and were able to reinstall it. And there's certainly a large area in there. But you had some other community fundraising too, didn't you? You had your sponsor a picket and all that sort of thing.
That looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's certainly been, and a lot of what you've done, you've constructed yourselves, haven't you? So, yeah, no, it's
try to get a lot of effort in from us.
Yeah.
Dave, Keith, even though he's decided to jump down to the South Island.
Yes, yeah, and certainly in the summertime, you see a lot of families stocked there that, you know, don't live in Cheltenham, they pass us through and they're having an ice cream and a play over in the playground. So that's really good to see.
Thank you. Other questions? Look, I think we quite clearly understand your project, and it's a stage 3, as you say.
Yeah.
So leave it with us. We'll be deliberating in December.
I know it sounds like a lot of money. It seems to be gold plated playground equipment, doesn't it? But
Everything.
that's-
I'm just gonna
Yeah, $500,000 for the Parliament ground one. So, thanks very much for your submission. Thanks for coming in to see us and talk to us today. Yeah,
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. Right. Right, Bainesian District Community Development Trust. We've got Peter Tarangi and colleagues. So a big welcome to Manawatu District Council. Please take it that we've read your submission. You're welcome to speak to it. 10 minutes, including question time. We're just here to listen to you, maybe ask some questions of you for clarification. We'll be deliberating in December. And after that, we'll come back to you before Christmas with sort of progress where to from here. Now, some of that will depend timing wise on whether council decides to go out to public consultation for its annual plan for next year. If we do, that will probably delay things a bit because we'll have to go through that process. If we don't, we'll probably make a decision on these things in December. The floor is yours.
Okay. Kia ora mō tēnā. Te tuatahi mihi te tuatahi ki te kaihanga kaharawa, kia koutou katoa e hui mai nei raru te maru te atua. But he mihi tēnei. Greetings, thank you for this opportunity to speak to this application. Ours is a pretty modest application, seeking only $2,000. This is really to re-engage with the invested community groups that relate to the City to Sea cycleway, walkway, rail trail project that we've been, we kicked off initially in about 2016. Some invested members of the community being part of that initial group with the onset of COVID and losing some of our key members. We're getting back into the re-engagement process with our various community groups. So that have some investment in the continuation of the cycleway from Longburn out to State Highway 1, following the old Foxton Palmerston North railway that used to go out that way, and taking it on an extension out to Himatangi Beach. And there's also the potential of going to Foxton, and there's also the old tramway which goes across to Sanson. That part of it is not our priority at the moment, but those things are potentials. So we're looking at engaging, having engagement hui with the cycling fraternity in the region, with CEDA regarding their Destination Manawatu project to invite tourism and investment into our region, with iwi, with Rangitane and the Hapu of Himatangi, who have a vested interest in it. There's Waka Kotahi, there's the dairy industry, which in the past, there's the historical interest of the dairy companies, which used to be at Te Aki Tahuna, at Rangiotu, and at Bainesi, the various cheese factories along that way, plus the railway community, the historical rail fraternity, which is interested in these sorts of things. Also with the educational community, which is with the new curriculum, which demands having a more local content in their curriculum, this project fits ideally with all of those aspirations. So not to mention the pre-European history, which is particularly rich along this stretch of the Manawatu River and heading out to the coast. So, so this particular project and the modest request for $2,000 is just to get us up and running again with our engagement with the invested communities. So, and I think in some respects it ticks many of your the region's aspirational goals in terms of that we had to respond to in terms of having a leisure and sports facilities, in terms of engaging with all parts of our community, an environment to be proud of, in the sense of some of these histories are untapped and unrealized. And so that meets the needs of the community now and in the future. It also being a great place to live, which we believe, well, we're born and bred in the area, so we know a bit about the community in which this is located. So, and with all of the other, you've got the Fielding to Palmerston North Cycleway, Walkway in the wings. We've got the Te Ahua Tūranga Cycleway on the horizon as well. Plus there's all the other little cycleways which go up along the ranges, the wind farm, Te Whāriti, Copper Mine Creek, the Manawatu River Cycleway, all these little cycleways which are having a greater and greater appeal to a tourist community as well as a transport community. So ours is has that level of appeal across a wide area in our region.
Thank you very much. And look, I think conceptually everyone can buy in because it is such a wonderful project. Probably the biggest concern is that this is a significant project. Do you have any update or thoughts on how the bulk of the money is going to come for the project, you know, over the next period of time? And do you intend to bite it off in stages or do it as one parcel?
We know that Waka Kotahi has already got plans for the Longburn to the Opiki turnoff section. That's already part of their planning. Our particular interest would go on from there, from the Opiki turnoff along the Rangiaotu Road, which takes us out to State Highway 1. We already have some local interest in doing a small section themselves from Kello Road to Bainesi School that we're looking at already. And yeah, so in terms of funding, that we're going to have to look wider for that. Hopefully we can create some interest from the transport community and from the tourist interests that relate to our region. And that's where we're going to pitch our thrust in terms of looking at developing this project further.
The small section that we're looking to do is 2.5 Ks. It's really only one pinch point in it, which is an underpass. And it throws if we can estimation of quotation for bridging that underpass, and the rest of the track is old railway line, pretty much straightforward.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Tēnā koe pā, hurina mihi ki ngā kaumātua Rangiotu. Thank you for coming. He pā tai tāku. My question is, would the engagement look different if it wasn't financially supported by NDC, and how?
Well, I think it would make it a more difficult process for us in terms of with the variety of communities that we're looking to link in with. We're looking at initially having a series of meetings with the various interest groups individually, and then with the long-term view of maybe having a regional summit of bringing all those together to further talk about the project. So in order to do that, we're going to need funding for venues, for koha, for refreshments, all those sorts of things. So to date, we've funded these sorts of things out of our own pockets, but it's getting beyond the capacity of us as individuals and as a collective to do that. So our petition is to the MDC to come to the party because it is really in regional interest.
Kia ora. Thank you. Councillors, any other questions? Well, that being the case, we'll say thank you very much for your submission and thank you very much for coming in, taking the time to come in and talk to us. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Right, we move on to the Uppity and Districts Show Committee, and we have Felicity on screen. Welcome, Felicity. Great to see you, and we look forward to your presentation, speaking to us. Please understand that we have read your submission. You've got 10 minutes, including time for questions, and then we'll be deliberating in December, and we'll report back to you after that. Where to from here. We may be able to give you an answer in December if council decides not to publicly consult its annual plan, but if we do, then it will roll over into next year. Felicity, over to you. Can you just unmute? We haven't, we can't hear you yet. Appear to still be muted.
There we go.
There we go.
How's that? Good?
It's
Can
good.
you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, sorry. It's all right. Well, yeah, it's like,
I thought you'd fallen over. You're all right.
yeah, greetings from Adelaide. That's what. Okay, I'm the secretary for the Uppity and District Show Committee. We're an incorporated society. Things you might not know about the Uppity Show is that it's been an annual event in Uppity for the last 80 years. And it has continued to change and evolve as times change and evolve. Most recently, for the past 25 years, we have had the shearing and wool handling sports through New Zealand shearing. Oh, sorry, I'm just still a bit jet lagged here.
You're fine.
And we're developing equestrian sports as well. Now, the current shearing sports office was built by the committee some 25, 30 odd years ago. It houses storage for the shearing sports. That's the annual event. It's also used on the day as the administration office for shearing sports part of the show. It's basically rotting, falling apart, and very hard to be made weatherproof. It's also too small. The show committee has been pretty much self-funding through entry fees and sponsorship throughout the years. This is the first time we've actually applied for any funding. When you consider that the Uppity Show involves a wide part of the community, it sucks up all the volunteers in the community on that day, both rural and in the village. It's a very community orientated event, but it is widespread. The people who come to the show, it's a national competition for both shearing and equestrian sports. The show actually continued over the COVID period with hard work from the shearing part of the show. Yeah, it's basically a national event held locally. It's part of the Horse of the Year circuit. It's, I think, the last equestrian points competition for Horse of the Year. It's not the last shearing event before Golden Shears, but it is certainly the biggest last event. Last year, we were one of only 4 shearing sports in New Zealand, and so we were able to allow shearers to continue to gain points in the national competition, and wool handlers as well. It showcases the Manawatu district, what the rural part of the Manawatu district can do. Like I said, it brings the community together. It continues to be a valuable event for the whole of the country. As I said, we are usually self-funding, but because of the COVID situation and everybody is looking for funds for this, our sponsorship was down, our entry was down. We're actually looking for part of the $16,000 or so it would take to replace the current derelict, or almost derelict shed with a new pre-built locatable building that will last for several more decades. And that's pretty much all I can say.
Thanks, Felicity. It's certainly a great show. Councillor Belsky was there on the first show back 80 years ago. Councillors, any questions of Felicity?
9 years behind.
What was that?
Oh, no, I was, well, you said 80 years, did you? That the show's been going?
81, this is the 81st year.
This year, yeah, well, I wasn't quite heard of.
Slight exaggeration. Sorry, Councillor Belsky. Councillor Short.
Thank you, Felicity, and hello to you in Adelaide. That's a real effort you've made today. Will the building, it's a relocatable building that's coming in, and then once it's there, how permanent will it become? Like, will it have a concrete base? Will it have any electricity and water or any of those things, or will it continue to be relocatable if required?
No, it will be relocatable if required. We're not putting any plumbing or electricity into it, and it will be on skids.
Thank you.
Councillor Hatfield.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just in terms of the shearing sports, one of the most popular things you'll ever see at a show is shearing and wool handling, in my view. And I note that one of the perpetual problems for show societies is actually the cost of prize money versus entry fees. And I'm guessing that as you were only one of 4 in what's quite a large circuit, that entries may have been down a bit. Would you expect?
Oh, they certainly were last year.
Yeah, so you expect that to kick back and actually be far more profitable.
Yes, it seems that the shearing wool handling is just ramping up again as the situation grinds back to normal.
Yep, thank you.
Well, that seems to be our questions. Thank you very much for your submission, and thanks very much for going to all the effort to join us today from the other side of the ditch. Leave it with us, and we'll be back to you with an update in December. Thank you, Felicity.
Okay, thanks very much. Bye.
Bye. So it's 10:31 and we were supposed to get to this point at 10:30, so I do apologise for the delay. Good time for a break? Or do you want to talk about the Kiwatea?
Well, that's deliberation, they're not coming in.
They're not coming. They're not coming in. No. So
I think that's the end.
So we can actually close the meeting.
Close the meeting and come back to the workshop. And we'll take it then.
All right. Well, we'll do that. We'll close the council meeting. Thank you very much, and we'll have a cuppa, and we'll come back for a workshop in 20 minutes. Say.
Just one thing.
Oh, sorry.
Might have to go to that report. Is there a recommendation?
Yes, there is a recommendation. Yes, you are so right, and it.
No recommendation.
I think I saw one, but what page it's on? No idea.
So there's no report.
Here's the report, but the first page.
Which page? Yep. Matt's already found it. It's just a receiving, really, isn't it?
Okay, that's cool. All right. On that basis, we can close the meeting. Thank you, and we'll come back at 10 to 11 for workshop.